Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Listen, for some people this may be a little bit of a touchy subject, but I'm going to bring you on a trip. And hopefully by the end of this trip, you will understand why it is so important that you be prepared. In the war that's happening in the eastern part of Europe, the Big U so far has had about 100,000 of their military die. 100,000. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to get into whether I think that we should be there or not, or whether I think we should be giving them money or not. Actually, I can tell you that we shouldn't be giving money to anyone because we're broke. The United States is 100% broke. All right, we are bankrupt. We just haven't declared bankruptcy yet. All right, so the purpose of this video is to explain to you, and hopefully you can understand why you need to be prepared. Especially if you are one of those that depends on government, that thinks that government is going to take care of you, and you don't understand yet because it takes different people different times in their lives to wake up, to understand. I was a late bloomer. I didn't wake up to the way of the world probably till I was in my late 30s. So it takes different people different time, and I think that everyone has to go on their own personal journey in order to understand. Listen, I have to make sure that if something happens, that I do what I need to do in order to make sure that my family is going to be okay. So this is how I'm bringing it. This is the side that I'm taking, all right? So like, I'm not taking any sides. I don't want you all to be triggered, all right? I know how sensitive some people are nowadays. So we've lost about 100,000 people, or the Big U has lost about 100,000 people since this thing with the big R started. But I want to show you something that's very interesting, and that in a way is kind of shameful. Now we all know, I can sit here and say, yeah, the United States has sent this much and this much and this much. We all know. We've heard it before. You know, I've even done videos about it. We all know how much the United States has sent over there, how much military aid, how much cash they've sent over there. They even sent cash over there so that they can pay their workers. However, this is where I'm getting at here. Any one death, ladies and gentlemen, is a terrible thing, especially if it's a death of someone who's innocent, someone who's just starting their lives. That's why I've always stated that war brings nothing but sorrow. It brings nothing but sorrow to you and me, the average wage earner, and it brings nothing but profits to the military-industrial complex and to those big banks that fund the war. All right, that's what war brings. Other than that, it brings nothing but sorrow. Ask all of the people that are sitting in Europe paying 5-10 times more for energy than they were a year and a half ago, because of the policies that have been enacted because of this, of what's going on in Eastern Europe with the Big U and the Big R. So there's been 100,000 lost there, and we continue to send support, and other countries continue to send support. But this is something that I don't think a lot of people have realized what's going on in the last couple of years. Check this out. This is the number of deaths in the United States as a whole from opioid overdoses. And although the trend seems to be going down a little bit, look at this. Here, when did this happen here? We broke 100,000 deaths per year. This is 100,000 deaths per year, ladies and gentlemen. This is not in the entirety of the, what I would say, opioid epidemic here in the United States of America. This is 100,000 deaths per year. This last year, 2022, the year prior, from August of 2022 to the August of 2021, we had 101.5 thousand deaths in the United States of America due to opioid overdoses. And all they do, ladies and gentlemen, the government, I mean, all they do is they just throw money at it, but they don't fix the problem. You know how many people go to the doctor because they have an illness, and the doctors, they give them medication to control the symptoms, but many times they don't treat the illness. They just treat the symptoms of the illness. And we're throwing, as a nation, a whole bunch of money into this opioid crisis. But all we're doing is treating the symptoms of it and not really treating the illness. Just knowing this, just knowing that we here in the United States on an annual basis are losing more than 100,000 Americans to opioid overdoses, which is more than what has been lost in roughly a year since the beginning of this big U and big R conflict. And we continue to send our treasures overseas, not only to that country, but to a whole bunch of other countries. And we continue to only treat the symptoms of this opioid overdose problem that we have in the U.S. when we have the solution in our hands, i.e., spend some of that money that they're spending on that and secure the places within the country, mainly borders, where these opioids are coming in. Why don't we do that, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think that your government cares that there's 100,000 people in the United States of America who have passed away due to this? If they really cared, they would actually get to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is that it's getting in to our borders. It's getting into our country. I read a few articles about California, and I won't get into this very deeply. But in California, they have a big problem that many people don't know about. And it's that big gangs that actually fight the police in areas that are desolate, that there's not many people in, that grow and process drugs. They're big gangs, and they're spread all over California, those parts that are desolate, that there's not many people in. And there's big gangs there. Well, how did that happen? Where did they come from? They more than likely came through our porous borders. That's where they came from, ladies and gentlemen. And instead of treating the actual problem, instead of the symptoms, we're allowing this to happen because the government does not care about you. Oh, you want some more proof that they don't care? Watch this. Democrat plans spend $780 million for border security in Middle East. No funding for U.S. border wall. Now, this is not just about the left or the right. This is about them. This is about government. I'm just reading this to you as it's stated there. $870 million for border security for other nations, but not for us. President Obama is giving Mexico $75 million to build a southern border wall. Did you know the U.S. gave Jordan $500 million to build a wall along their Iraqi border? It is currently under construction, agreed on, and fully funded by both Republicans and Democratic politicians. Like I said, it doesn't matter. It's the system that is rotten to the core. U.S. taxpayers fund border walls in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the Middle East. Congress is using billions of taxpayer dollars to build border walls in other countries. And if you take a look at the dates on these, they're spread all out. These articles are not talking about the same instance. So I didn't find 5 or 6 different articles talking about the same instance in time. These are all different. So it doesn't matter who's in office. What matters is that you understand that this is not going to stop. Eventually, it will have to stop because they will run out of other people's money. Because the United States of American government is broke. But is the United States government broke because they're trying to take care of the citizens? Obviously not, ladies and gentlemen. Just look around. I guarantee you that not one of the 537, the 535 up on the Hill, and then the 2 that reside in the White House, I guarantee you that not one of those people that are supposed to be representing you and doing what they need to do for you, the American people, has ever gone hungry. At least while they've been in office. None of them have. Every time that you see them, they're wearing a suit, and they never look hungry to me. I'm sure that they can put gasoline in their vehicles with no problem. I'm sure that if they have an electric vehicle, they can charge it with no problem and not really care how much it costs to charge it. And then we get to this stuff that's happening right now that our government is part of as well. Climate Cult wants every person's carbon dioxide emission to be regulated. I actually talked about this before this article ever came out. I talked about this a few videos ago, maybe a week ago or so, saying one day, mark my word, that one day if we continue to go down the road that we're going, that there will be monitors in your home to gauge how much carbon dioxide you're breathing out so that they can tax you on that. Alibaba is developing individual carbon footprint tracker to monitor people's CO2 emissions. It's got to start somewhere, right? In order to have an environment worth living in, according to this person here, CO2 emissions must be kept at a minimum unless you're a millionaire and you can afford to buy additional carbon credits with your CBDC and digital wallet that will be able to track everything that you buy, issue you a carbon credit, and tax you even more. Why? Because the government is not there for you, ladies and gentlemen. They are there for them. If the government can't continue to tax you more and more and more in different ways, year after year after year, it will cease to exist. Because the government gets its power from fiat currency, which represents, unfortunately, it represents your time, because that's what you work for in order to exchange your energy for goods and services that allow you to live the standard of living that you're currently living, be it good or be it bad. So if you make more fiat currency, you can afford to live a higher standard of living. Well, they want to take that standard of living away from you. And they've found the perfect tool that they've been able to convince many people around the world is what's causing this erratic weather that we're having, instead of actually taking a look at the real science and saying, what can we do about this, instead of blaming it on you, the people. You have to breathe, you have to eat. Everything that you see around you, energy had a part in. Be it energy that came from a solar panel or energy that came from the ground. And think about this. Let's say that we live in a world where we are powered by nothing but solar panels, nothing but nuclear reactors, nothing but windmill. Let's say that we actually achieve that and we live in that utopia. Where are we going to get everything that we need in order to live? Because you can't turn electrical energy into food. You can't turn electrical energy into a car. You can't turn it into clothes. Heck, most people don't even know that the clothes that they are wearing is a byproduct of oil. It is a way, ladies and gentlemen, to take from you more of your wealth than what they have already taken. And I want to show you how close it is that we're getting to where the government is going to continue to get even more tyrannical, because the more broke that a government gets, the more tyrannical that it becomes. And this CBDC is part of that tyranny. And this article right here says carbon credits are the biggest scam since indulgences. How can you avoid being fleeced? I'm not going to read this article. I'm just going to read this little part right here. Although advocates promote them as a way to save the environment, in reality, carbon credits are nothing more than a devious mechanism to tax, regulate, and control you. And for those of you that may disagree with that statement, tell me what carbon credits really are. It's a tax, all right, that regulates what you can and can't do by telling you how much of something you can or can't have or do, like get on a plane. And it is a way of controlling you, controlling your behavior. Because let's say, for example, that you went to the store to buy a bottle of water, right? And for some reason, the government got it in their minds that bottled water is bad for the environment. And instead of paying $1 for that bottle of water, let's say, the government then says, we're going to tax bottled water by 500%. So now that same bottle of water that you used to pay $1 for is now $5 or $6. Are you going to continue to buy that bottle of water? No, because taxing people is a way of regulating people's behaviors, of changing your behavior to the way that they want you to act. That is not freedom. cashless society. Big banks prepare to launch digital wallet to compete with Apple Pay and PayPal. Now do you understand why all these big banks are having problems with people losing their money, changing their lobbies into kiosks where there are no people, and people not being able to reach representatives from that bank and the kiosk, not being able to solve their problems? Is because when they completely turn digital, you're not going to have anyone to complain to. And if you do get lucky to actually talk to someone on a phone, you will be at their behest, not the other way around. You will be begging for your money, asking, can you please return my money? When there is no more cash, we will lose a big chunk of the freedoms that we have today. And that's not me saying it. This is from the WEF. Dethroning cash as king, how digital payments are enabling a shift away from the cash economy. And this is coming from the WEF. And big banks are going along to get along. It's part of this ESG that's being pushed onto corporations all over the world, which comes from the UN's SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. They're using all of these things that they're coming out with as something that you think is good for the world. But really what it's for is to completely control how you live your lives. Just think about that. If you're an adult, and you should be if you're watching this video, if you're an adult, do you really want someone telling you how you can live your life every day, every minute of every day? Think about this. Let's say it's your child's birthday and you want to have a birthday party for your child and you want to go buy a cake. But when you get to the store, there's nobody there and there's a beautiful birthday cake right there. And you grab that birthday cake and you go to check out. You've got plenty of credits in your little digital wallet. You got plenty of money in there. But when you go to check out, you get a little signal that says you can't buy this. You don't have enough carbon credits. But I've got plenty of money. Well, who are you going to complain to? You're not going to complain to anyone because there's not going to be anyone there. And how are you going to be able to get that cake if you don't have enough carbon credits? Because someone said that you've had enough cake that month. Is that freedom? But AP, they say in this article that you'll be able to buy carbon credits from someone else that has extra. Another way to tax you. It's about taking your wealth. And when your wealth is taken from you and you have no wealth left or barely enough to exist, then you will do what they ask you to do. Because a person that is desperate will pretty much do whatever they need to do to get what they need to get to survive. The United States, ladies and gentlemen, is 100% insolvent. When you take a look at our GDP, our gross domestic product, which is about 25 trillion or so, and you take a look at our national debt, which is sitting at about 31.5 trillion or so, we owe more than what we make. What's that called? That's called insolvent. And the United States government understands that the time is running out. And that is why they're pushing so hard for the CBDC. It's why they're pushing so hard for these carbon credits. They want to milk you as much as they can for the last little while until the dollar no longer exists, so that they can then shift to their new currency, whatever it may be, and still be able to keep that control over you. Take a look at what $100 used to buy you in 1913, where it had all of its value, right? In 1913, the dollar had all of its value. And how many dollars would it take you today to purchase the same thing that you could purchase in 1913 with that $1? Look at this. This is only going up to, well, last year, it would take you $2,997. That's how much value the dollar has lost. Almost all of it, like 98% or so. Here's the buying power of the dollar over time. Same thing. It's just an inverse chart of what I just showed you. In 1913, it had its full value. Why? Because back then, a dollar was a dollar. as defined by the United States Constitution, which equals to 371.25 grains of silver. I think I got that right. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was the definition of a dollar. But look at now, ladies and gentlemen. We can get 97% less for that same dollar today than we could when the Federal Reserve note was brought into circulation. This here is a linear chart of gold. And I could only bring it back to 1976. It's when they first started keeping track of it. But this is gold against the dollar, right? Gold valued in dollars. And in 1976, 1 ounce of gold was roughly 116 bucks, right? $116 or so. But I'm not trying to explain to you here how much gold is worth, but how much the dollar has been devalued and how quickly it's been devalued and how we are approaching the point of no return. So you can see here that in 76 it was about 16 bucks or so, let's say. And then today we're at 1928, right? So I don't know, about 15, 16 times more, right? But take a look at this right here. Now remember that this is gold valued in dollars from 1976 till today. So almost 46 years, I think, something like that. About 46, 47 years. Now take a look at this chart. This is a chart of the value of 1 gold mark from Germany in 1918 all the way through 1923. And let me take a pause here real quick. Some of you may say, well, this is not a realistic comparison because back in Germany, you're only doing 5 years. And here you're doing 45 years, 50 years, let's say, right? Well, what you have to understand is that back here, the German mark, during this time frame where they went through hyperinflation, they were not the world reserve currency. And we are. So we can actually export inflation, which is our #1 exportation in the country, in the United States. It's the #1 thing that we export out of our country. It's actually inflation. And the definition of inflation is newly printed money. That's our best export, believe it or not. It's not wheat or rice or beef, right? So they did not have the privilege of doing that. And we have, as the United States of America, we've had the privilege over the last 50 years or so to be the world reserve currency. So we've had more time to reach the point of hyperinflation. And now as the countries of the world are deciding to shift away from using the United States Federal Reserve note as their medium of exchange internationally, then the dollar is becoming less valuable against gold. But I want to show you what this chart here looks like. This was 1918, and you see this little dip right here? Right there, that little dip? That was the point of no return. Because after that, it just skyrocketed. Meaning that the value of the paper mark became less and less and less exponentially. It went from being valued at 10,000 roughly per gold mark to, what is this, 1 trillion per gold mark. And just take a look at the comparison of this gold chart against this. I know we have a big dip here. This was, I think, around 2012 when they crushed the gold and the silver market. Remember back when silver was like $49 or something like that? They crushed it. And that was a practice of manipulation by the government as well. Go watch Bix Weir. He has all of this documented, right? Bix Weir. He has all of this documented, right? And that was a big compromise. Why? Because people were waking up to the fact that the dollar was becoming so worthless that they wanted to get something that would protect their purchasing power. But ladies and gentlemen, we are reaching the point of no return. Just like here, we are reaching that point. And I'm not making this video to tell you to buy gold or to buy silver or anything like that. I'm just telling you that if you think that the government is going to take care of you when things get really bad, that you better think again, because the government is broke. And looking at this chart and the charts that I've showed you, and the reasons why government are giving you that they want to tax you even more, ought to wake you up to the fact that the government is broke, and that it is you, it is we, the wage earners, that are the cattle that they depend on to keep being fed. I hope that you get something out of this, and I hope that you do enough research on your own to realize that you have only you, yourself, your family, your church, and your community, hopefully, to rely on. And that the government will never give you something that it cannot take away. Look at what they're doing with SNAP. This is going to continue. More states are going to continue, not just Iowa. The government is going to do this. They don't have a choice. But people instead blame those actions that are the right actions by government to take, and then they vote themselves in people that will do the things that they shouldn't do. For example, I'm not being inconsiderate here, but I mentioned this on my previous video. The government has absolutely no business in providing any relief to anyone whatsoever. If you want to be free, you have to accept the fact that you have to depend on yourself and that government is not there to take care of you. And it's turned from government, look at what it's turned into. Back in 1933, when they did the Green New Deal, 33 or 34, when they did the Green New Deal and they started passing out welfare and printing money out of thin air to create jobs. Look at what has happened, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the disaster that it's become. But look at what they've done to our freedoms. And it's all because of fiat currency. Because fiat currencies give government power over the people, where sound money give people power over the government. So don't think for a minute that the government is going to come for your rescue when you need it the most, because the government relies on you every single day to keep it afloat with your labor. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. I hope that some of you got something out of this. Thank you very much for joining in. God bless every one of you, and God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.